Hey love, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I am really excited to bring you this video because just like the small living room, this video was also highly requested. So today we're getting into small bedrooms, what to do, how to make the most of the space, and how to create that designed look. You know me, I love a good design challenge, and I see a small bedroom as a real opportunity to create a unique and special space. I've got some tips, and I've also got some things that if I were decorating or designing your room, what I would do in your space to really up it, to up level the vibe of the room and just up level the look. When you're working with a small bedroom, I think the two best ways to really maximize what you're working with and also create this elevated design look is to either one, go light and airy, so you're opening up the space, you're making it brighter, you're making it feel more expansive, you're making it feel very airy. The other option is cozy cocoon, and that's where you're making that space just as cozy and as warm as possible. I would go in one of those two routes because that's going to be making the most of the situation that you're in. So let's make it look intentional. Let's make it look like, yes, we absolutely wanted this small bedroom. The headboard serves as an opportunity to create a focal point. It also has a way of really pulling the bed together. I do think there can be some exceptions for this, but in my personal opinion, I prefer a headboard or something that acts as an alternative to a headboard, still creating that visual weight that is needed to ground the bed. This is a beautiful example of using the space behind the bed and kind of going for an alternative headboard. I really like that this is like a built-in sort of stacked one shelf that they can layer artwork as well as store some personal items. Here's another great example of building some kind of stacked shelf behind the bed. I like this a lot, and I also think that if you cannot build this sort of boxy piece behind your bed, you could also hang a shelf behind, paint the bottom half or paint the top half, and whatever half you choose, you can paint the shelf that color. So it's almost creating like this illusion of a headboard. The bed location is very important in a small bedroom, and oftentimes you've got doors to closets, you've got the obvious entrance into the bedroom, you've got windows, so there are some architectural elements that are kind of obstacles or prevent you from having unlimited choices on where you'll place the bed. So you may have a designated area where you have to put the bed. One way to kind of give you a little more space is to push the bed against the wall. Don't just simply push the bed against the wall and be like, done. Get creative with how you execute that. I think that's a real opportunity to do something dramatic, something that becomes a focal point. Don't just stick it against the wall and think, okay, now I have more room. Make it intentional. Everything must be intentional in a small space. That's the number one thing I want you to remember when it comes down to details, decor, furniture, accessories, lighting. Everything must be intentional. You need to really think this kind of thing through. In terms of storage in a small bedroom, absolutely 100% utilize every opportunity without making it look like you're living in a storage room. So that means utilizing under the bed storage. When I've had many small bedrooms living in New York. I don't have a small bedroom now, but trust me, I have this small bedroom thing down. In all of my bedrooms in New York City, I've utilized the space under the bed. Even now in this condo where we have a king size bed, I still utilize the space under the bed. Always think about like under the bed storage, whether you're buying a new bed or you just need to utilize that space efficiently. I've got more of these small room videos coming up. There were so many things for this one. I couldn't even get everything in. So definitely subscribe and click on the bell so you get notified for every new video that gets released on Sundays. In the past, these storage beds were really tall and kind of bulky, which actually would not serve you in a small bedroom. A tall, bulky bed like this would actually make it feel smaller.
going for a lower profile storage bed is going to be one of your best options. If you cannot afford to buy a new bed, then I would utilize the under the storage bed with the standard height bed. That's going to make the most of your space. Those tall, bulky storage beds are really going to make the space feel much smaller. Basically, the lower profile the bed is, the higher the ceiling will appear, as well as the bigger the room will feel, or at least the more open and expansive the room will feel. But those are a little difficult to get out of in the morning. So my first choice is always opting for a standard height bed, so I'm not limited in my selection, and then utilizing the storage underneath the bed.
Think about using only the necessary furniture. So in a small room, you will have obviously a bed. Do you have room for side tables? If you do have side tables, do you have side tables with drawers?
In order to have that designed, finished, intentional look, it's important that each piece, each item in a small bedroom serves a purpose. I love this example of this room. This feels very intentional. It feels designed. It's minimal use of furniture. The things that are necessary are here, but also it looks beautiful. It looks intentional. It doesn't have to be stark. It doesn't have to be cold, and it doesn't have to be boring. It's all about planning and making sure personal items are tucked away. You have proper storage. There's a balance of storage. You're using cabinets when you can. All of these things come into consideration so you can have a more finished and elevated look. I also want you to notice that the color on the walls is like magic for pulling the look together. By selecting intentional pieces of furniture, a careful selection of what you bring in, combined with the careful use of paint, you're able to create a very designed look. It doesn't even require remodeling. These things, when really thought out, pull the room together and create an intentional look, and that's what we're going for. In a small space, in all spaces, but in small spaces, 100%, you really need to think about making everything appear intentional. It has to be intentional. It doesn't just appear, it is.
The idea with minimal furniture is to give it a little more breathing space. If you saw the video I did on small living rooms, then you would have heard me say that you need to be able to see some floorboard space. You need to be able to see some wall space. You also need to be able to see some floor space, because if you have a small room and every square inch of that room is filled, especially along the walls, it will create that smaller kind of closing in on you feeling. Now, if you're going for that second option that I mentioned, the cocoon look, then that could serve you. But regardless, you should be very intentional and a minimal use of furniture, whether you go for cocoon or you're going for the light and airy. Be sure that you are fully utilizing your closet space. So many closets, especially in apartments, have just a shelf and a bar. That is not the maximum use of that closet space. Look at getting organization systems to put in. If you can't afford a more expensive organization system, or perhaps you're renting, then I would look at getting additional shelving that you could add to the bottom that could hold shoes, or that could hold baskets where you can put belts and things like that in it. But you need to fully utilize that closet space. And also, when you open the closet, you want to make sure that you know where everything is. Perhaps you like label makers and you label things, but you want to know where anything might be that you could be looking for. So that's really important too, because you definitely don't want to open the closet of your small bedroom and it's jam-packed with things and it's in disarray, because it's just like hiding all your junk in the closet to give the illusion that the bedroom itself is calming. When we're talking about intentional use of furniture, I want you to think about that also with your lighting.
Sconces are a great solution for small bedrooms because it frees up floor and surface space on your side tables. These are some great examples of rooms that have executed the sconces really well. I also like the way the rooms look. I like the intentionality behind everything. I like the use of color. Everything seems to have a purpose. But in addition to this, also consider hanging pendant lights as well. I really like the idea of putting identical hanging lights on each side of the bed. I also like this idea with the clip-on light.
Also, keep in mind picture lights, because a picture light is a great opportunity to showcase some art, but also have an additional light source in that room. But whatever you do, whatever the lighting, make sure that you are putting it on a dimmer, because the bright light is great when you're cleaning the room, but when you're in your room, that additional light source should be down on a dimmer, just to create a little mood, to create a little bit of a cozy feeling in that room in the evening. You want everything about this to look like, this is the way I wanted it, not like, oh, this was my only alternative. There's a big difference when it's intentional and it looks like, if I could have any bedroom in the world, this would be the bedroom that I had, and this is what I would do in that bedroom. It's gonna be a very different feeling from, well, this is all I could do because I was limited by this small space. So with that being said, get creative with the way the bed is displayed. Perhaps you create an alcove. Perhaps you have like a little cubby where you could slide the bed in. Maybe your walls are very narrow, so you could slide the bed in so it almost feels a bit like a day bed in that situation. You could add drapes to this to create like a cozy, romantic, beautiful. You could go cozy, you could go airy and light. It all depends on the drapes that you use, but you create a true vibe there. You create a true feeling, and you make that bed feel like a retreat. There's a big difference. I would 100% invest in a beautiful mirror for your small bedroom, be it a floor to ceiling, tall mirror that sits on the floor, or a mirror that you mount on the wall. And I would place that either across from the window or adjacent to the window, so you're amplifying the light. Consider something dramatic like a painted mural on the wall. Are you artistic? Are you creative? Or do you want to try your hand at something artistic and creative? Why not paint a beautiful mural on your wall? You know, as I mentioned earlier, you want to go for a little drama, a little, like creativity and intentionality. Intentionality? Is that a word? So if you are looking for that look like, hey, this was designed, or I designed this space, like truly designed this space, look at more creative, alternative ways to decorate your room. This will add architectural interest. This will add character to your room. If an opportunity arises to flank your bed with shelving, I would 100% do that, because just like the small living room video, I want you to pull everything up off of the floor, as much as you can off the floor. That means lamps, that means bookshelves. If you have bookshelves, I would mount those to the wall. That would be my first choice, wall mounted bookshelves that are open, that do not have sides, because that's gonna create more air, it's gonna create more space. Now, you could 100% use the floor standing bookcases and flank your bed with that. If you wanna go for a little more cozy look, I also like this creative use of bookshelves. Check it out. Check it out.
If you don't know by now, I love a good library, and I feel like your bedroom could be a library. I love the way that they've used these bookcases behind the bed. It's very similar to what we did in the living room with the bookcases behind the sofa, but this creates a real mood, creates drama, it's interesting, and it creates an incredible focal point when you walk into the room.
I like to think of optical illusions that will create the feeling of more space, or will bring your eyes up. There's also an interesting painting technique that you can do with this that will also elevate the eye. Even if your ceilings aren't tall, it will give the impression that you've got a higher ceiling.
Take a look at these images and you'll see that your eyes are pulled up. So they have painted the ceiling, but what they've done in addition to that is carried that paint down to the walls slightly. And what this does is it makes the walls feel as if they're going up, as if the ceiling is almost limitless when you look at it. Note that the color on the walls is lighter than the color on the ceiling. If it were reversed, it would create the opposite effect and make the walls feel short and stumpy.
The thing about interior design and decor, or actually I should say more about decor, is that you can use these things to create illusions. Just much like I always think about when you're dressing or when you're putting on your makeup, you're always looking for ways to accentuate the positive, and that's what you're doing with this small space. You're basically changing the narrative that this small bedroom is the bedroom that you 100% wanted. Does that make sense? Like you're just embracing that small room and you're making the best of it. In fact, you're making it better than the best. You're making it 100% your bedroom. It's irrelevant if the room is small. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense to you. A more minimal palette will give the illusion of a larger space. The more colors you have going on in that room, the more it's going to feel cluttered, the more it will feel the walls are closing in on you. And that is the opposite of what we're looking for. We want to still create a feeling of cohesion as well as harmony, unity, and balance. Do not forget about hub. It is essential even in your small room. In terms of the window treatments, we have to consider, are you going for light and airy, or are you going for a little more of a cocoon vibe? Now, if it's light and airy, you'll want to utilize sheers or linen drapes, things like that.
Be sure to give attention to your window treatments, regardless of the vibe you're going for, be it light and airy or cozy cave. You want to make sure that you have plenty of floor space to accommodate a long drape, and if not, opt for a Roman shade.
Do you have an area for a light fixture in the middle of the bedroom, and how will you utilize that? That could be a great focal point for you, and that's what we got to think about, because if we're being intentional in this small space, what are we doing with all of our opportunities? Are we missing any opportunities to add architectural interest, a focal point, details to bring cohesion? It's time to change out the builder grade fixture that's there and put something really beautiful that sets the tone for your bedroom. If you learn to work the solution and make it feel intentional, that design challenge is a true opportunity for you to create something new. Lean into the challenge, lean into the fact that you have a small bedroom, and really make it feel intentional. This is the best room that I could ever create for myself. I don't even think about how small it is. That's kind of the attitude. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I have my weird ways of thinking, but I'm all about leaning into the obstacle, because that's where you create something new. And on that note, I want to say, sending you so much love from New York. Mwah.